Hi, my name is Dr. Jonathan Ellis and I'm a senior lecturer in American literature. I would say I was a feminist for many reasons. First, I think goes back to an important event when I was growing up. When I was 15 years old, my mum had a serious stroke. Before then, she'd very much carried the house. She'd not just worked and been the main breadwinner on our house, but she'd done all the caring, the cleaning, every activity. And my dad used to joke that was her role, and his role was to work outside the home. When my mum had a stroke, that dichotomy of roles broke down, and suddenly it was my dad's responsibility to do all of those roles, and my brother and my role to help out. And suddenly I became aware that it wasn't just the role of a woman to do those roles, but it was important for both my brothers and my dad to take on the roles that my mum had done before. So I'd say being a feminist comes back to the importance of men and women being equal, and men and women taking equal responsibility for things in the home. I think Martin Amis says many stupid things, but one of the things I think he said in the last few years that is important is that feminism, one of the things that feminism has to engage with is getting men and women to do things equally in the home before, which is just as important as equal rights outside of the home. At university, I encountered feminism through the different books we studied, but often women writers were mentioned as an aside rather than as an important part of the canon. But the writers that I was particularly interested were often writers who weren't placed at centre stage, so particularly Aphra Behn, Emily Bronte, Christina Rossetti, Catherine Mansfield, Jean Rhys. And in my own research, the writer I've spent most time on is Elizabeth Bishop, who's a fantastic 20th century poet. One of the things that Bishop was most famous for is, in her will, she said that she didn't want her poetry to be included in any all-female anthologies. She said it's better for me to be considered the third or fourth best poet than the first or second best woman poet. And I've always thought that was a very provocative and actually an inspiring statement. I think women writers should be studied because they're as good as, if not better in many cases, than male writers. And I've always thought it was important to study male and women writers in that regard. I think in my own life now, I would always consider myself a feminist, and I think men can be feminists too. And when I do a lecture, for example, on the first year course on feminism and poetry, it's one of the things I ask students, what does it mean to be a feminist, and can men be feminists too? When I asked my wife quite recently, and we both have similar job titles, we discussed how much we earn, and I was shocked to discover that she earns more than 20% less than I do. So that's a living example of the fact that men and women, even though they do similar roles, indeed we have the same job titles, we still earn a disproportionate amount. So feminism still has a role. It still has a lot of things to achieve. Another example, nearly all of my female friends at university that I studied with have changed their surnames, and I've never understood why that was the case. I think women should keep their own names and their own identities. So there's some of the reasons why I'm a feminist.